The only thing I know about Lucky 7 is that whiskey snobs are real fanatic about it. They're real hyped up.
Are they?
Yeah.
So I've had my eye on Lucky 7 for probably 2 years.
Well, the second you bought this bottle, the gentleman at church brought it up and said, I gotta get me some of that Lucky 7.
Oh, interesting. So I saw this at the store for a while. I love double-barreled or finished whiskeys. I think they're fantastic, bourbons in particular.
Is this finished in white oak or something else?
It depends. So this brand in particular it's a Kentucky straight bourbon, meaning it's going to be a minimum of 4 years old. It's distilled in Kentucky, and then what they do is then they take new charred oak barrels and they char them. They take new oak barrels and they put a heavy toast on them, and then they double barrel it in the new white oak barrels.
What is a heavy toast?
So in the toasting and charring world, there's different levels. Think of it like getting a sunburn.
Now, technically speaking, you could make whiskey with barrels that don't have any char or toast, right? And it'd still be legally classified as.
It wouldn't be bourbon. No, it has to be a new charred oak container.
So it needs to be charred but not toasted.
It's a good thing. Everything I've read.
I'm only asking hypothetically. Obviously, you're going to char and toast it, otherwise it would taste weird.
Yeah, everything I've read, it has to be charred. Now I don't know. That's a gray area. I'd be interested to ask the master distillers that question, because that's interesting. I don't know that you'd want to put a brand new distillate into just a lightly toasted.
I'm not saying it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'm curious if it's legal.
It's
probably a bad idea because someone tested it along the way.
I'm sure they've tried it. I don't think there's a whole lot of people that haven't tried at this point. But
it's pretty well trodden art form.
But in the finished bourbon worlds, there's really no rules. You can use everything. You can finish whiskey in Mizunara oak barrels and port barrels and wine barrels, in different type of oak, like up in Oregon with the Gary oak barrels, cognac barrels. Like, you can finish them in anything. You can finish them in used bourbon barrels, or you can buy new barrels and custom char and toast how you want.
I remember you told me once that the barrel doesn't have to be shaped like a barrel. You could age it in a box if you really wanted to.
As long as it's white oak and charred, that's all that matters.
It would be inefficient to age it in a box, because someone probably tried it.
It'd be a pain in the butt to move, obviously, too, because now it's square instead of round.
You can't roll it.
Yeah, so what these guys are doing is they're taking Kentucky distillate, they're then double barreling it into a new heavily toasted oak barrel, and then they're letting it sit. I couldn't find how long they let it sit for, but if we go off like the Woodfords or the Old Foresters, traditionally it's anywhere from 6 months to a year, sometimes 18 months, depending on who's doing what. In the case of like Trails End, they do it for 4 months, but they're using something very exclusive to the Pacific Northwest.
It's very particular.
Right. And
more generally, you age it in a ex-bourbon barrel.
Yeah, for just a standard double oak, sure, but excuse me, you get into like our Joseph Magnus cigar blend or some of these different cigar blends where they're aging it in Armagnac casks, they're aging it in cognac casks.
Or a personal favorite of mine, any bourbon that's been finished in port casks.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite too.
It's jammy, it's lovely.
It's so good. Anyway, I've been looking at this for a while, and to be honest with you, there's not a lot that kept me from buying it. I don't care that they're an NDP. I love finished whiskey anyway. The proof is phenomenal. It's 115 proofer.
115.
Yeah, it's 115 proof. The thing that has kept me from buying this was the price.
How much is it?
So at the store, I think we were selling it, it was almost an $80 bottle. I think it was like $77 or $78. And for a lot of people trying a new product or a new brand, that's a little much to just shell out for an I don't know.
Especially without an age statement.
Right.
It's a little easier to justify if you know it's old.
Sure. If you get a new company or a new, whatever, and there's a 10-year age statement on it or something, and it's $100 or $80 a bottle, you're like, I'll take the risk, right? But for a non-age stated whiskey, I love the fact that it's double barreled, and double barreling does make whiskey more expensive.
But it's a kind of suspect because you see that sort of price gouging on the celebrity brands or the vanity brands that someone whips up a LLC, they get a contract with some NDPs, and they just throw something together and charge $80.
Yeah, well, like I said, for me, what's interesting that I've seen over the last, especially the last year, is people's appetites for expensive bottles. A few years ago, if you came out with a new product and you slapped an $80 or $100 price tag on there, it would still pretty much sell. But I think with economics being what they are currently, people are a little more frugal with their money, number one. Number two, I think the big thing is that there's a lot of whiskey drinkers that have actually now sort of been in the whiskey world long enough that more people are doing their homework. So unlike me when I first got started and, I bought some bottles because I thought, I'd heard about them, I thought they were cool.
Well, like with the Woodford Double Oak, it's more expensive, so it has to be better.
Yeah, and then my palate wasn't ready for it, or like some of the Nulu ones that I bought where I didn't do my homework.
I thought you said you didn't want to speak that name.
No, I got rid of those bottles, but but I'm
very satisfied.
I didn't do my homework on it, and I think a lot of people are getting more educated.
Now, to be fair, some of these organizations, they don't make it easy for you to do your homework. They really obfuscate where they get the juice, how they bottle it, how they age it.
Sure, but I just think people are getting a little more. They're a little more hip to the times. So
I wish there was as far as marketing is concerned, I wish that this bottle had a little bit more going on. It looks nice from afar, but
I mean, it's cool. It's cool packaging and stuff. There's a lot going on it. Like I said, the big thing.
There's not really any text there. There's no supplementary material to inspire confidence.
Yeah, like I said, and it's expensive. The only thing we know is that it's Kentucky straight bourbon. Bardstown bottles it, and then Lucky 7 sells it. So I don't know a whole lot about it. Like I said, I wanted to try it. I tried for 2 Christmases to talk myself into buying it, and I never did. Now, the reason we have a bottle is because they finally put it on sale.
How much was it for sale?
It was $25 off.
That's a good price.
So I paid roughly $55.
That's a much more reasonable price. If they had started with that, it probably would have moved a little bit.
It would have sold probably a lot better.
Well, you should smell it because it smells fantastic.
Yeah. Well, that was always the thing that intrigued me.
Whoa.
There are other releases. Lucky 7 has a couple other different ones. I know they have one that's finished in French oak barrels.
Is this specifically called the Holiday Toast?
This one is. This is the Holiday Toast. Just because tasting notes, it's going to be dark and rich.
It is dark and rich. We were talking about port. It kind of reminds me of that.
Wow.
Yeah, you see it? And look at the color, too. That's a handsome color.
Yeah. No, the color's great on it. And the noses. Yeah, very, very nice. Oaky. Like oaky, sweet, dark.
More.
Yeah, there's almost a little bit.
Dark fruit.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I wouldn't call it a port finish, but man, you get some of those dark red fruits. Very jammy. There's still vanilla and caramel, almost like a burnt caramel again.
But they blend together and they give me an impression of like a very thick tree sap.
Yeah, no,
that's really interesting.
On the nose, it's really good.
Nostrovia.
Cool. Let's see what it tastes like. Wow.
She's hot.
She's a proofy gal. Yeah, nice Kentucky hug on there.
Very nice.
A little marshmallowy.
The dark fruits on the
mean, that's the first sip of this. Based on the nose, I thought it might be a little heartier, perhaps, if that's the right word.
Well, that the flavor would be sizable.
Yeah, it's still, see, I'm not sure if that's proof talking to me or the actual fun stuff. Man, this
Well, let's wait until the second sip and we
smells
can enjoy it.
amazing. Wow, it smells so good.
I think that was the proof talking.
It's proof.
There's quite a lot going on.
Yeah. Once you kind of.
Graham cracker? You getting a graham cracker? Because I did.
Yeah, it's interesting. No, I don't really. I'm picking up on more of those real rich, dark red fruits that we found on the nose.
I know you don't eat plums very often, as in ever, but it does
No.
remind me of a plum.
Yeah. Well, some of the things we get in like really nice barrel aged stouts,
Yeah.
where you get like that dark plum, that fig,
Mm-hmm.
almost dates.
Or if you're really lucky, the occasional apricot.
Yeah. 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 Go another sip real quick because I just got talking about ports and lost my train of thought.
I'm getting more.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of marshmallow, maybe a little bit of chocolate, maybe a little bit of dark red fruit.
Out of curiosity, how do you specify a marshmallow note? Because I'm not a big fan of marshmallows. I haven't eaten a marshmallow in many years.
It comes across differently. I tend to find like that it's a type of sweetness that's not a confectionery, like a powdered sugar. Like when you smell a powdered sugar or taste powdered sugar, it's like super sweet but kind of light.
Yes,
If that's a good way to put it.
it is.
Some people get the two mixed up depending on maybe what they ate more as a kid. You know, if you grew up eating marshmallows, then, you know, you're going to lean maybe more towards marshmallow and your tasting notes, you know. If you
Well, marshmallow is a common note in certain types of beer.
Yeah. No, and in the whiskey world, it's definitely, you know, you get that a lot from like double barreling for whatever reason, and I think it has to do with you know, with the toasting levels of things, because you can go in with even with used barrels, and you can re-toast those barrels, or in this case, they're using new barrels, and then they're putting a heavy toast on it, which we didn't really finish in the beginning, but like I was telling you, like in the whiskey in the barrel world, it's like a sunburn. So it's like you can get a little sunburn, and that's like a really light toast. That's just like you're charring the barrel, but it just very lightly. So that's called a toast. And they have different levels of toasting.
So toast and char is the same thing?
They're two different things.
They're two different things?
Correct. So when you're toasting it, you can have a very light toast
Or you can
all the way up to a heavy toast. And then in the barrels for charring, it's the same thing. You can have a very low char all the way up to like a char 5, which I think they even call that like alligator char, where basically the barrel's torched to the point where it barely holds whiskey, to be honest with you. And then some people, they'll char the barrels to whatever level they want, a 3 or a 4, and then they'll toast the heads. So now you're getting sort of the best of both worlds, because in those barrels, the whole purpose of charring and toasting, it's you're creating like charcoal.
Yeah.
Right? So just like the filter we have on our refrigerator, the water runs through it and the charcoal takes out all the impurities.
Or like the charcoal that Jack Daniels filters their juice.
Same
when
idea.
they're making Gentleman Jack.
Same idea, which they use for pretty much all their products.
Two gentlemen who shall remain unnamed may or may not have referred to as a Brita filter.
Yeah, it's similar, but
Derisively. Similar.
But in the barrel, what's interesting is the reason you have that char, why it's so important, because as the distillate flows in and out of the wood grains, it's going through that layer of charcoal, right? It's going through that char level, and that's pulling out impurities in the whiskey. It's,
which is why, even hypothetically, if you were to have an extremely light char and no toast, it would be a very unpleasant drinking experience.
could be. I'd be interested to try some. If somebody's tried it, I'd love to try
You
it.
probably have to water it down quite a bit to make it approachable.
I don't know, but I know that what they do, it works. So the fact that they're using new charred oak barrels with a heavy toast, because this is definitely it's really good, and it's definitely different than a Woodford Double Oak or an Old Forester 1910. Like, it's noticeably different. And
It's harsher.
Well, it's got higher proof,
Yes.
so that's the thing that's going to set that apart. Is the proof.
But even then, when I say harsher, it has those dark fruits, those dark notes, and I've never gotten that in a Old Forester 1910, and I'll jump up and down for the Old Forester 1910. That's a great bottle.
Yeah, and a lot of times in the whiskey world, and I don't know this for a fact with this company, but a lot of times you double oak something because you're using younger whiskey.
Really?
Yeah. It's a very common practice. So you're using,
Interesting.
so this being Kentucky straight, let's say it's a minimum of 4 years in the bottle that they put in there. It's 4 years. That's what you have to do to be a Kentucky straight. So if you got, your 4 to 5 year whiskeys that, if you used them for other blends or whatever, and they just didn't work well, the leftover barrels, then you double barrel it, and now you're getting all that new flavor from the secondary barrel. So it's a pretty common thing. That's why you very rarely see, a double barrel whiskey that's got an 8-year age statement or a 10-year age statement. Just because typically, if you got an 8 or a 10-year bourbon,
You can put it to more
you're just gonna
lucrative ends.
you're gonna throw it out there, right? So I suspect that might be one of the reasons, is it's a little young. It's not super spiky or anything. That double barreling
Really mellows it out.
mellowed it out.
It's a good use of young whiskey. It would take a madman, but I would be curious to see what double barreling would do for an older whiskey.
I can answer your question. We've already done that.
Have we?
Trails and tenure.
I'll write you up.
Trails and tenure. So we've already done that, and it's fantastic.
That one was so good, I forgot that it was finished.
I know, and it's so different. So here's what I will say about this one. At let's call it $80 a bottle.
It's too much.
I wouldn't, and I'm glad that we got it on sale because we're able to try it.
That should be the price for it.
It's a, in my opinion, it's a $55 bottle. That's about what it should be. So I would say if if somebody sees it and you see it on sale and you like finished bourbons, snatch it. It's because it is good. I mean, it doesn't suck, that's for sure. But at 80, if I paid 80 for it, it wouldn't get drank a whole lot.
That's a lot to ask.
It's because it's good, but at the end, like I said, at the end of the day,
When you're getting up to $80, you can buy a really nice bottle of scotch for that, and that had to get shipped across an ocean.
yeah. I mean, you start getting up in the $80 range. You start getting up into some really good bourbons, and this isn't bad by any stretch. It's just, I think it's just a little overpriced.
It's neat. It has more going on than we expected.
Yeah,
It's a very interesting bottle, but like you said, on the palate especially, it comes and then it goes.
yeah. For the
It
proof,
doesn't linger.
for the proof being as high as it is, you would think the finish would be a little bit longer.
No, it goes bam.
But it hits you. Yeah, and that's.
I noticed that with really good and expensive whiskeys, the finish is very long, and that gives the spirit more time to linger. It gives you more to chew on.
Yeah, and you just enjoy it more. I mean, the finish is there, but it's mostly proof.
Well, like what you were talking about with it being young whiskey, that's very similar in wine as well. Good wine, it lasts quite a while, whereas young wine, inexpensive
Sure.
wine is very one note. goes away.
No, I agree.
Cigars are that way too.
Yep.
Really good cigars have a lot going on. You have to chew on it, pick it apart for a while. Whereas, you know, your Kentucky Fire Created cigar is, ooh, that's super cancer, and then that's the only one that you get.
Yeah, I haven't had that one. I'm good. We'll let you try that.
Only once, never again.
Yeah.
That was a harsh experience.
Yeah,
I would compare it to smoking a Swisher Sweet first thing in the morning.
Pass.
You don't want to start your day with a Swisher Sweet.
Nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
good,
so-
overpriced.
Yeah, I think that's the takeaway with
50 is
this.
a good $50. Even then, that might be a little much. Maybe if it was 45, that'd be better.
Yeah,
But it's also
it's a
finished. So
it's a double barrel, and in general, double barreling anything is going to drive the price up.
would you buy this at the price point that you got it at before a Woodford Double Oaked, or a Old Forester 1910?
That's a tough question.
Because I wouldn't.
Yes and no. Yes, because of the proof.
The proof's nice.
Because a Woodford Double Oak, or I don't know what the 1910 is,
I think the 1910 is something like.
but the old for the Double Oak, the Woodford's 90.
It might be 90.
It's 90.4. So,
I don't know why you're pointing up there. Oh yeah.
that's right behind you.
Let's see.
It's
It
almost
is 93.
93. So that's why I say yes and no. So yes, if it was a $55 bottle, I would buy it over that just based on the proof if I wanted something a little punchier.
Sure.
But if I wanted something like super sweet, like I used to tell people like the Woodford Double Oak, that's like breakfast whiskey.
Yes,
Like
it
it's
is.
so good. It's fat kid whiskey. It's perfect. Now it's something, either of these bottles, it's not something I would just make my daily because it's just a little too sweet. But when I'm in the mood for it, you know, the Woodford and the Old Forester are fantastic. Same with the Peerless that's behind me. The Peerless Double Oak, it's one of my favorites, and it's like 110 proof. It just doesn't get drank a lot because it's really, really hard to find.
I haven't seen a Peerless on shelves and
Yeah,
in
you
a
can
long while.
you can find them, but it's definitely not as easy. You can find the bourbon. A
well,
lot of times you
hopefully
can find the rye.
that gets remedied.
Hopefully,
Hopefully Peerless has a bunch of stuff coming off the shelf.
yeah. Who knows? But this is I mean, I'm not over the moon, right? I'm glad I bought it.
I'm cautiously optimistic to see the other offerings from Lucky 7.
So this is what, batch number 7. Yeah, I don't know that I'd buy. At least I put it this way. At least at their retail,
Retail
I wouldn't.
on sale, maybe.
On sale, it was worth buying just because I've been curious about it. For
Or
2
maybe
years.
when the economy is a little better and cash is a
Yeah,
little more cash.
that might help a little bit, but once again, I really just think a lot of people are just getting smarter, and they're being smarter with their money.
It's true.
You know, because
Slick marketing can only get you so far.
yeah,
A nice looking bottle can only get you so far if you can go on your computer and look up where the juice comes from, how long it's aged for, and if there's anything special about it.
right. And there's, like I said, with this, even looking on the bottle, it just says
There's nothing to go off of.
Kentucky Straight. So
There's not even any fun words on the back for me to read.
it's all on the very bottom of the SKU.
You know I can't read that.
Yeah, but
Even then all it says is
Yeah, it just
bottled by
says
Bardstown.
bottled by Bardstown for those guys. So
It's alright.
yeah, who
It's
knows?
alright. Glad you got it on sale.
Yeah, I'm glad I didn't pay $80 before tax. That's before tax, mind you. So, yeah, if I paid $90 for that bottle, I wouldn't have been happy. But for 55, you know, for being on sale, that's a good price point for it. You know, we'll go back to it again someday. I mean, it's a fresh crack, so yeah, it's
Even mellows up.
very. Even that empty glass sounds like super oaky. It's pretty wild. But yeah, I'm glad we got it. Wouldn't pay 90 for it, or wouldn't pay 80 for it. but you know, at the proof,
For its retail price, don't buy.
for
If
me,
it's on sale,
yeah,
bump it up to a risky.
yeah. I mean, for me, I hate telling people, you know, it's, you know, great or it's garbage or whatever, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, you know, I just think at the price point, I sound like a broken record, but I think just at the price point, it's just, they're stretching.
Too much.
They're stretching. You know.
Drop it to 55 though, and I think you'd have a
Yeah.
quite a little customer base.
Yeah, you'd have more people, you know, that are willing to take a shot on it. Because that's one of the things I learned from dealing with people at the store. You know, if it's over a $60 bottle, a lot of people, they flat out told me, they're like, I want to try it first.
Yeah,
Like,
because $60 is a lot to drop on
Sure.
on a bottle. It's like if it's like for your average man dropping more than $15 on a bottle of wine.
Sure. Well, and not everybody has, has a bunch of whiskey designated in a room. If you've only got X amount of bar space,
Or if you have a
bar.
cabinet that your darling wife let you use for
Sure.
whiskey bottles.
Sure. I mean, so just dropping $80 on a bottle.
Especially putting it on the credit card and you don't know if it's going to be any good or not. You know how much grief you're going to catch for it.
Right. Yeah. I don't know that I want to catch grief for buying this bottle.
That would be a silly bottle to catch grief
You know,
for.
if I saw, George T. Stagg sitting on the shelf and I pull the trigger on that, I'll take the ash chewing when I get home.
That one's worth it.
I'll take the chewing when I get home. Yeah. But yeah. So decent whiskey, great proof. Too much money retail.
Keep it up. I hope they keep improving.
But yeah, if they can lower their price point a little bit and then maybe get a little bit older whiskey perhaps, but
Maybe even a year older would do them well.
maybe. But it's not bad. I mean, smell that. That smells like a wooden barrel at this point.
Oh, it does.
Isn't that crazy?
Interesting.
So it'll be fun to go back to this. We'll let that sit for a month or so and come back and try it and see if it opened up at all. But just on its own, it's good. But and that's probably why it sits on the shelf. It's at, pretty much $80. It's just not. It's just too much money. It's just too much money.